everybody. We welcome you to Hawaii Football Now. Jordan Helle and Hunter Hughes with you here on episode 76 of HFN. It is Super Bowl week. It is also a huge week for football here in Hawaii. Obviously, a little earlier in the calendar than usual, but spring practices are underway, which for us is great because this is more stuff for us to talk about. We are looking forward to that. We'll maybe make a Super Bowl pick because it's kind of like the media obligation to do so. We'll probably do that at the end of the pod. We record this at 7:07 a.m. on a Wednesday because, hey, if the football team can get up early and start practice at 7 a.m., so can we. So we're in the mood. They have today off. Today is Wednesday, February 8th, set to release this as usual on Thursday. That'll be February 9th, which will also be the third day of spring practices for the University of Hawaii. They've already gotten a couple in to start the week on Monday and Tuesday. So looking forward to that. Hunter's been out there. So looking forward to getting his observations as we go throughout as well. I think a lot of excitement, a lot of reasons to be excited. And that is sort of the usual tone during spring practice, right? It's optimism. You're not taking a loss at the end of the week, no matter what, how practice goes. But I think there's some bright spots that we will surely get into as we go throughout the pod. All right, quick opening drive here. Hunter, football related, a little adjacent. I'm curious because we as Bears fans have been tormented by Aaron Rodgers for years, decades, really, at this point. And he is reportedly going on a 4-day, 4-night darkness retreat, quote, soon after the Super Bowl. He will be in like total isolation. The only contact he will get is basically through like food drop-offs in like some small isolated house at an undisclosed location. He did say that it does not include the use of ayahuasca, which he did last off season. And so if you're a quarterback trying to make the biggest decision of your career here, Hunter, or, you know, maybe just trying to get right, maybe this is something that other young aspiring quarterbacks can do. Like, are you down for signing up for the 4-day, 4-night darkness retreat where he's supposed to be just like by himself in like a dark room? In isolation.
I don't know if I have what it takes, man. I'm gonna end up seeing something in like the first 6 hours, and I'm gonna be locked in with whatever that thing is. Man, just when you thought Aaron Rodgers couldn't be stranger, goes and does something like this.
Yeah, he said no ayahuasca, but the experience does sort of leave the possibility of like hallucinations. Well, yeah, you're locked in a pitch black room or whatever by yourself. Like you're going to start seeing things.
Your mind.
That's how the brain works, I feel like.
Exactly right. You ever seen Longest Yard, Jordan?
Yes.
They lock Adam Sandler in the hot box out in
Yeah.
like the outskirts of the prison for like a week straight. I kind of think about that. That just no part of that experience sounds enjoyment filled to me at all. Yeah, I don't, man. It sounds like the guy's trying a little too hard.
Yeah, this kind of Aaron Rodgers, right? He's always been the smartest guy in the room. Just ask him. You know, I think he's a really smart guy, but I think he's almost a little too smart for his own good, or thinks he's smarter than he is, which is never which can always can lead to some awkward situations. And I bring this up because at the end of the day, look, Aaron, if you need to reset as a quarterback, just come out to the islands, man. Come out to Hawaii. We'll get you right. There's a lot of places you can throw the ball around. You know, maybe you don't need to go into darkness for 4 days. So
It just sounds sad.
hopefully things work out and he decides to leave Green Bay or maybe just retire and let the Bears fans, you know, off the hook a little bit. So we'll see. Yeah, I just thought that was fascinating. And we'll see if it works for him and how crazy maybe he gets over the course of 4 days and 4 nights. This is like what they do to torture people. All right. So we'll get into some funner conversation. And we will be talking quarterbacks, no doubt about that, here coming up in the first half. But a quick reminder that Hawaii Football Now is brought to you by Hawaii USA Federal Credit Union. Originally opened in 1936 as a credit union for educators, Hawaii USA has inspired a culture of giving that is rooted in education and has since become Hawaii's largest credit union, excuse me, and expanded to other areas of community need that impact financial health, including healthcare, housing, and hunger. To learn more, please visit hawaiiusafcu.com. Big mahalo to Hawaii USA FCU as well as Spectrum Mobile, our sponsors here on episode 76. Fun times as spring practice open. Let's get into the first half here on HFN. Early start due to schedule construction and improvements at Chain Complex. Some of those logistical constraints also, I think, playing into the fact that they won't have, a spring game at the end of practices. They won't have the Island Day sort of festival that we saw last year as well. And it's just, I think, kind of fact of the matter at this point. Would have been nice, but I get and understand why, that it's not really doable this off season. It is a little more business-like. It is, kind of get back to it. And kind of curious, Hunter, you got to take a chance to get out there the last couple of mornings. So before we get into maybe more of the details, what were some of your general observations as you took in spring number 2 here under Coach Chang?
Yeah, it's weird that we're in spring ball first week of February. That to me is very unique. That was one of the first conversations I had with Coach Timmy just at practice. It was me and next to Greg Salas, and Timmy came over, and we were just kind of picking his brain on what it's been like with this early of a spring ball. But he brought up something interesting, Jordan. If they are able to have a successful spring, even with injury, that allows for almost 7 full months of rehab of one if someone goes down before season. So usually you have an elongated ramp up time after season to build up the body to kind of get prepared for spring. And then if you get hurt, you're really kind of rolling the dice on if you're going to be ready for fall. So it is almost kind of advantageous for us. Because also they're trying to instill the run and shoot as well. So that at least the first couple of days of practice, a lot of it has been routes on air, 7-on-7, skelly. That's football terminology for not playing very hard, I would say. Plus they're out there in basically just helmets and jerseys. They call that pajamas. So the whole reason for being out there and practicing is to get reps in and not to hit each other right now. So they're easing their way into spring right now. Had a great talk with Coach Cody Cook, their strength and conditioning coach. They're needing to kind of look at things a little bit differently now, with there only being about a month and change between the seasons. But they've done a pretty successful job in terms of getting guys ready to be back on the field as of right now. They're only, I think, maybe 4 or 5 guys in the pit, which is kind of the rehab area of the field whenever you've got guys that are nursing an injury and they're not able to be fully at practice. And so, yeah, Coach Cook's done a great job getting those guys ready. And so other than, more specific run and shoot stuff that we can jump into here in a second, it's good to be back out there and playing some football, man. Crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, hearing from Coach Chang and talking about the timeline. And one thing that he did mention, and I think, he's given a lot of credit to Coach Cook. You have Tanner, our guy, Tanner Hayworth, big mahalo to him as well. Again, yesterday last week for coming on the pod. It took some adjusting and some adapting, and I think that has gone fairly well. But Coach Chang saying, because the semester starts a bit earlier at the University of Hawaii than maybe some other places, right? They were able to get in kind of like a full month of workouts to get their bodies ready for spring practice, which is kind of a nice luxury because the school that I went to, we didn't start the second semester until like after MLK Day in January, so we were like 3-4 weeks, 3.5 weeks into January before we got back on campus, which was nice. But if you're starting for spring practice on February 6th, like you kind of need to to get guys going, right?
Yeah.
So it was kind of interesting to see the timeline, how they've adjusted. I think that's a really interesting point. I hadn't really thought about that. that you brought up, where, hey, if God forbid somebody does go down in spring practice, there is more, or there is added time for recovery before the start of the season, which I don't think is a bad thing at all. Like that's probably it's sort of inevitable. It's football, but as you point out, um, they're not going full contact or anything like that. There is a definite purposeful plan to making sure their bodies are good and getting in the work and whatnot, while keeping these guys healthy and good to go throughout the off season.
Yeah.
You mentioned the run and shoot. Is that sort of the biggest storyline for you coming into spring practice, or what's sort of the big headline, if you will, that you've got focused on? Because the defense has a number of new faces, right, at really all three levels, but particularly in the defensive backfield, guys like Camstone coming from Wyoming. And so it's kind of curious to see how Jacob Bureau envisions all of these chess pieces on the board. But I think a lot of people obviously, hey, run and shoot, right? It's the quarterbacks, Shaker, how are we looking, all this kind of stuff. I would imagine for you that also is the big headline, but maybe not. What's sort of the big headline for you as we get spring practice going?
Unquestionably, it's the return to the run and shoot. First day on Monday, there was an electricity to practice. And I don't want to just say because I was a former player in the run and shoot that it brings guys like me or guys like Greg Salas comfort whenever he's out there. Hearing those same plays being called, um, we joked with Coach Timmy Chang that it was like coming back to church or something like that. Just an enormous amount of comfort. Literally the same plays, the same play calls. They haven't changed up the terminology, how these things are being called. And for those of us that have played, we're already envisioning, okay, they could do this, they could do that. But the main reason there was electricity was the practice looked completely different than what it did this entire fall. The offense destroyed the defense, destroyed them. They're quickly approaching a time in spring practice where the defense isn't going to be able to talk trash at practice for the slaughtering that is happening, because they literally can't stop them. And that's the beauty of the run and shoot, where I've been very impressed with, even just off the first couple of days of practice, many of the quarterbacks are poised back there, taking that 5-yard hitch that you and I talk about to the nth degree on this podcast. That's the beauty of the run and shoot. Very tough to simulate that in a running game where you can get 5 yards every single time you snap the ball, but you have that afforded to you in the run and shoot if it's there. Taking shots down the field, liking matchups, a lot of really good stuff from a slew of receivers. It's a humble and teachable group from what I've observed. They are all coming back to the line of scrimmage talking about, hey, did you see this particular defensive scheme? Did you see this specific type of coverage? I tried to break it off there. What do you think about that? Just those kind of conversations are evidence to me that they are being taught well in the classroom by these coaches, and it's a culture of collaboration where they're wanting to help each other win and help each other succeed. So for me, that is the most exciting thing about the start to spring.
Yeah, it'll be really fascinating to see how this develops, right? And everybody's going to get excited. And you've got a returning quarterback in Braden Shager, that all indications are is going to be the guy, right? There are some other candidates in there, and I was kind of curious, with these receivers, because with a 30-member recruiting class, there weren't a whole lot of receivers recruited, right? There weren't a ton of offensive skill guys. A lot of it was focused on the line of scrimmage as well as on the defensive side of the football. Stephen McBride, I think, of the offensive skill recruits, the main guy who's here for spring practice, the Kansas transfer at wide receiver. Did anybody sort of stand out amongst the receivers? Because a lot of them are familiar faces, or guys that were here last year. maybe in smaller roles, maybe didn't get a chance to play as much because of injury or something like that. But of the receivers, did anybody sort of jump out at you so far?
It's tough to say one person in particular because the run and shoot spreads the ball out so well.
Sure.
And we're still early in spring where they're trying to just give these guys a wide breadth approach to, I would say, maybe the first 25% of the run and shoot playbook. It's so deep that I don't think they can quite expose them to that just yet. It's been somewhat basic, but in that, many guys are getting the ball. Similar to what we saw this past fall with, I mean, there were 9 different guys with receptions in games at some point. Um, I did notice our guy Tylen Hines. He's got a number change. He's now number 2 for those listening. And with that, he is being incorporated in the passing attack. I know you and I have talked and kind of dreamed about what that would look like, incorporating someone with his skill set in space in the passing attack. And he caught a great dig over the middle yesterday and kind of turned up field. And Coach Withy Allen was right next to me, Sean Withy Allen, and we joked with each other that even in a game, that's probably a touchdown because no one came close to even touching him. So that gets us really excited about what that could open up in the passing attack with someone like that, and then bring him back into the backfield as well. That gives us really fun options as an offense.
Yeah, I'm curious, right? He's listed as a running back. I think it was clear that they look to expand his role, however that is. I think that's the nice thing, with I'm gonna guess with a Timmy Chang iteration of the run and shoot. I don't expect it to be as rigid, maybe as like your traditional run and shoot. I think there is flexibility to move guys around and play them in multiple spots offensively, multiple alignments. I know obviously completely different team and offense, but a la Calvin Turner, right, where you line them up in the backfield, line them up in the slot, whatever, right? I feel like Tylen Hines is a guy that you can move all over the place. All right, before we hit the halftime here, defense. You mentioned when they were going head to head, maybe the offense had the advantage here, but there are some new faces, some excitement on the defensive side of the football, some experience there as well. What'd you see on that side of the football?
A lot of excitement over Cam Stone, the transfer from Wyoming. Not just from players to see him come over, but also from the coaching staff. Coach Cook mentioned him by name to me whenever I was talking to him, just how much of a win that is to get someone from in conference to jump over and want to be a part of what we're building over here. And they all remembered how much of a lockdown corner he was when we played against him. So there's a big difference between guys that practice well and guys that play well in the game. And he's respected in our conference. So that is a really good win right off the bat. The other one is our guy, Logan Taylor. He's the unquestionable leader of this team. And it's not so much just the guy, talking trash over on the side, but he backed it up this year with only playing 50% of our season, and he led our team in tackles. That bodes really well for leading a team, being the one to kind of cultivate that culture out there. And it also just helps when you're the middle linebacker. There are certain positions that the stick or the leadership role kind of needs to fall to, and he has taken that up with all authority, I would say. First day, him and Braden Shager were talking trash to each other, which is just fun. It's just fun to be around and to watch. He even said, "Hey, there's a new starter in town trying to get under Shager's skin," which we all know Shager's still going to be the starter, but it was really fun to be out there and watch those guys do their thing. Again, there's not any hitting being allowed right now. Everything is two-hand touch tempo. But they're still getting work in for sure.
Yeah, and so obviously we wanted to kind of save the QBs for last before we take that break. Shager, I've heard really good things. I'm curious to see what you thought, and the rest of the QBs, because as we know, when you're a run and shoot team, man, there are a lot of balls to be thrown during practice.
Lots.
There are a lot of passes to be thrown. And so you need a lot of quarterbacks. And there are a few new ones on the spring roster. Jonah Chong is there, the Iolani grad back from Nevada. You've got a Navy graduate transfer in the mix. Freshman Dylan Gebbia is on the spring roster. So curious to see or to hear what you saw out there from the QBs.
Yeah, first and foremost, you can't uh, ignore what Braden Shager brings to the table now. This is now his third year as going to be the starter. And there is a confidence, and I would even say cockiness to the way that he carries himself on the field that I want from our starting quarterback. You look at the great QBs of UH's past, they all kind of carried themselves with a presence where it's, hey, this is my team. I know what I'm doing. Give me the ball. Especially in an offense like the run and shoot, where you can pass the ball 60 times in a game. You need to exude a confidence and a way that you go about your business. And first couple years, again, he was young, going through COVID, all that nonsense. There is kind of a deer in headlights vibe about him that is nowhere to be seen now. And I love watching this kid play football. Um, he throws the prettiest ball by anyone. Also, let me just throw that out there. It looks the best in the air. It cuts through the wind better than anybody else out there. He's the unquestionable starter. However, I'm seeing some good stuff from guys like Jake Farrell. Real
Mm-hmm.
strong arm, not afraid to get it out there. He connected on one, I think it was a divide route, ran right up the middle of the field, and the thing landed like 60 yards down the field into the wind. I mean, strong arm for sure from big number 5. And then the other guy I kind of wanted to talk about for a second. You mentioned him in the kind of warm up for the QBs, is this kid named Dalen Morris, uh, grad transfer from Navy. Not a typical walk on story in the sense of normally guys get preferred walk on opportunities whenever they come from other big programs. This guy went to the walk on tryout, Jordan. I
Just
always
found him out of nowhere, huh?
literally he and Timmy told me about him. You know that he uh is actually training to be a lawyer. I don't think he's quite in Scheidler just yet, but he that is his trajectory and his plan. He went to the walk-on tryout. Timmy said he did really well. The walk-on was back in January, by the way. And the guy's 6'1", dual threat quarterback with running capabilities. And if you look at everybody on the roster, he's kind of one of the only guys that brings that to the table as of right now. We're hoping to see something similar to that from our boy John Chiave Sagapolutele in the summer. But Timmy brought that up specifically, I think, because the rest of the guys are kind of just pocket passer style QBs. And yeah, this guy Dalen Morris brings a maturity about him, just his presence out there. He's I think if you come from the Naval Academy, you carry yourself with a
Mm-hmm.
different professionalism, just coming from the military, where you're literally talking about war all the time. You know what I mean? It's a different level of thinking. And so you go from there to University of Hawaii. He's ready to go right now and has a strong arm. So I'm very curious to see how he does heading further into the spring.
Yeah, that is fascinating, right? I mean, you're not running two more diametric, polar opposites when it comes to offenses, whether you're running like that true triple option look versus the run and shoot. So I'm intrigued by what this guy maybe could turn into in Dalen Morris. That should be pretty fun to observe. Hey, Hunter, we appreciate you going down, checking that out, and sharing some of your thoughts. And we've got a few more weeks as well. And excited to see the development of this group over the course of that time. We'll go ahead and take a break. In the second half, we'll kind of revisit some of the conversation we had with Tanner last week on the 4 recruits rounding out the recruit class. Put a kind of a bow on that as we kind of get into that bridge between the recruiting period and now into spring practice, which really kind of signals the start of the upcoming season. All right, more coming your way after this quick break. You're listening to Hawaii Football Now.
This is Hawaii Football Now from ESPN Honolulu.
All right, second half time. Jordan and Hunter with you. Hawaii Football Now. Big mahalo to Spectrum Mobile, as well as Hawaii USA FCU, Hawaii USA Federal Credit Union. We talked a little bit about it last week. 4 additional, rounding out the class of 30. A lot of new faces. Some of them already on campus. Some of them already in uniform for spring practices. 20 of the 30 on the defensive side of the football. Some of the fun stats compiled. 12 states are represented, including 8 from Hawaii, 3 international signees, 1 from American Samoa, 1 from England, 1 from Australia. 12 signees play on the line of scrimmage, 8 on the defensive line, 4 on the offensive line, 5 offensive skill positions, 9 defensive backs, 3 linebackers. As we mentioned, not a ton on the offensive skill side, and none really among the 4 additional, unless they, turn Domota Peko Jr. into this, all-world tight end or something like that, because he was a two-way star. We'll kind of lead with him, right? 6'4", 220 out of Calabasas High School in California, son of, obviously, former NFL mainstay Domota Peko, senior 3-star. Some of the stats that we saw, 9 sacks, 15 tackles for loss last year. He also caught 24 receptions for 388 yards and 4 touchdowns, just kind of, part-time on offense. So there is a little bit of intrigue there. I'd imagine they're going to try and, play him as a fearsome pass rusher on the edge. But, you never know, right, how these things sort of work out. And then 3 defensive backs. You got a corner in Lion Freeman from East Coweta High School. I didn't realize this, but in the UH press release, he didn't start playing football until his junior year of high school. So he is like 2 years into his football career. He's run a 4.5 in the 40, played both receiver and corner at East Coweta High School there in Noonan, Georgia. And then you've got the 2 safeties, right? The local kid, Ezekiel Rodriguez from Mililani High School, second team All-State. His last football game in his high school career, he had like 12 tackles against Punahou and an interception of also now University of Hawaii signee John Keawe Sakapolutele. And then the other safety, DeMarco Moore, maybe of these guys the most ready to play right now. He was a first-team California Community College Athletic Association All-American, 12 interceptions, 94 tackles, 7.5 tackles for loss, 6-footer from Riverside City College. And so we learned a little bit more about these guys over the last week. Hunter was pretty quick reaction last week, just a couple of hours after these guys signed. And so now having a week to process this a little bit, did you have any other thoughts on this group, or maybe even the group as a whole, if you've somehow been able to keep track of all 30 guys that they're bringing?
Yeah, couple things. I referenced it earlier in the pod, talking with Coach Cody Cook a few times. We just agreed how big of a recruiting class this really is, and the unique challenges that comes with all of the unique individuals that are being incorporated in that group. Not all those guys are going to be ready to play right now. They get slotted into this style of player called a Devo guy, or development player, where they are looking to really build them up and see what they have in the next 2, 3, 4 years with those guys, because physically, mentally, they may not quite be ready to jump on the field as of right now. And then there's other guys like Cam Stone jumping over from Wyoming. He's ready to play right now. So each guy kind of has a different role as of right now, and they have to kind of discuss and figure out how they're going to use these guys and when they're going to use these guys. And so, first, right off the bat, I look at Damata Peko Jr. I'm curious to see where they slot a guy like him, because you look at him on film, he's very long, he's fast, but you got to think they want to build him up a little bit to be, a little more D1 ready, kind of stringy on the outside. And this is by no means a critique on my part. The guy's a monster, and he's going to grow into a monster, but you can kind of see where he could grow as an athlete. And so I'm curious to see if they are as eager to use him right off the bat. And then a little more specifically, you talked about maybe using him on offense. That has been the talk from a lot of people down at practice, is this curiosity on how Timmy is going to incorporate tight ends into the run and shoot. Rolo used Tui Unga and Dakota Torres in his style of the run and shoot. We're curious as well as to how he's going to incorporate those position groups into this offense. And that was kind of our critique, Jordan, with this recruiting class was, hey, why not get more receivers, man? You need receivers to play in this new offense. But it seems like our assessment a few weeks back of maybe they didn't grab receivers because they want to double down on teaching the guys they have and build that chemistry in-house. It seems to me that's much more accurate in their strategy, because in the first couple of days of practice, very few balls were on the ground. People were catching passes, routes were being run. Of course, things can be cleaned up, but very good sign in just the first couple of days of practice. So yeah, that's a couple of just observations thinking about the recruiting class as of right now.
Yeah, it's I think those are really good points, and I'm fascinated to see how that sort of translates over what, how these pieces fit, right? Because that's ultimately the name of the game. And I'm with you on the offensive standpoint, and kind of doubling down on the guys that they have in building. And I know that it was up and down at times last season with the pass catchers, but I think, that doesn't always mean that the same guys are going to be out there, right? I think there was a lot of depth that wasn't being able to use guys like Wally Nishigaya, who were, hurt coming back from injury, that were limited to like 4 games. Some of these other dudes like Senecal and some of the other big body receivers, maybe that we could see maybe even a better fit for this type of offense than some of the hybrid stuff we saw last year. So that's going to be something that I've got my eye on. I think for some of these guys, this is a nice fresh start and an opportunity to really kind of maximize their skill set when it comes down to it. And with a class this big, are you going to hit on every one of them? Is everybody going to turn into a starter or a producer? No, that's just not how things work. But they've brought in, I think, a lot of a wide range of guys like Cam Stone that you mentioned that can play right away, and guys that would be developmental guys. And you kind of need that, right? Because you need to sort of layer your roster and get guys in position. No doubt about that. So yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I'm excited about Peko. That was a big get, for the University of Hawaii. No other way to slice it. When
the majority of those guys are going to be coming in the fall.
Yeah.
So we're going to have plenty more to talk about in terms of this new recruiting class. I need to go through the spring roster a little more soundly to see which of these guys are actually here. I'll be able to talk about that a little bit more with one more week of spring under our belts. We're just a couple practices in at this point, but it's going to be something that continues to develop and can continue to shift before we play our first game in August.
Yeah, I mean, I think the vast majority of these guys aren't here yet, right? I think I remember seeing Pat Hisatake's name, I think, on the roster, Kuaupe Hopa. Some of the portal guys, Cam Stone, right, as you mentioned. I think that Freddie Pelling, I believe, is in there. There might be another JUCO guy. Freddie Pelling, the offensive lineman out of England, 6'9", via the Kansas Junior College. So yeah, to your point, I think a majority of these guys haven't even gotten here yet. We haven't really gotten a look at them. So still a little bit of mystery there.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be a fun mystery though, because I still think that one of the strongest stories of this recruiting class is this emerging pipeline being created from Coach Chris Brown and his alma mater back in Las Vegas, and bringing 3 prominent players from that school. That is particularly encouraging as we begin. Again, we're still only in the first year with this new coaching regime, and what could be in the years to come with their ability to recruit guys here. So very encouraging, to say the least.
Yeah, I am with you there. So it'll be fun, and this won't be the last we talk about this recruiting class, but I did want to kind of expand a little bit off of last week's conversation. Again, a big mahalo to Tanner as well. All right, kind of getting into the wrap up portion of the pod. Shout out to all of you as well for dropping us a line on the comments. As always, our guy Al from VA. Get a nice little shout out to Jim Leahy in the comments, as well as some props to Coach Cook. I think the work of Cody Cook is not going or is being noticed, right? It's not going unnoticed. And he's getting a lot of praise, as he should be. One kind of just a tangent here. He asked why neither Coach Graham or Coach Chang do like a coaches show, right? Rolo did one with Hawaii News Now. You had one with Norm Chow and Spectrum, kind of a coaches show behind the scenes. I'm not sure. I'd imagine Coach Graham, it was kind of tough during COVID. And it's sort of, those are like independent deals. Like those are that's with the coach and an outside entity. It's not like a University of Hawaii deal. I don't know if, people might realize that they might not, but I did kind of want to mention that. I don't know if Coach Chang has been made an offer by any of the networks or anything like that. Obviously there's been some turnover at a number of these places in terms of leadership at some of the networks. So I don't know if that's something in the future or anything like that. I don't think it's necessarily that they're like shirking some sort of perceived responsibility or anything like that, because you can always catch a lot of these guys on Call the Coach on ESPN Honolulu, which is archived, by the way. So just a little shameless plug for us at the on the ESPN Honolulu side. And I will say for Timmy, right, he's been maybe there isn't some sort of television show attached to with him, but the dude's been super accessible and very much out there in the community. So I got to give him his props there.
Yeah, and again, we're in a new normal post-COVID right now, where I think about, to come to Coach Graham's defense and also Coach Timmy, who knows what restrictions or regulations are involved with what they can.
Yeah, it was really hard. Yeah,
what they can even do, and then throw in their scheduling obligations. Who knows if Kanoa can even handle that now? You and I cover Kanoa's show, it seems like, on the weekly.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. I know dudes who worked on the Rolo show, guys like Ian Shearing and whatnot. Who's not even with HNN anymore. It's a lot. There's a lot that goes into it. It's just something that I don't know if is in the cards from Timmy's schedule standpoint, from the networks, right? If they're willing to put in the time and the resources, right? Because it costs money to produce something like that. But again, it's a completely separate deal from like the university and their broadcast partnerships with Spectrum or ESPN Honolulu. on the radio side. That is something that would be independently done by the head coach. So yeah, it's
Timmy may
nice
not
to
want
have,
to
right? It's
either.
fun content, but
Yeah, like when I look at the two guys, as you know, a player under Rolo, and now that I've gotten to know Timmy pretty well, their vibe is totally different. Rolo liked to be entertaining. Let's just call it for what it is. You know, he'd show up to practice with different hats on. He'd walk out there with like a walking stick. The dude, he'd show up in this ATV, like four-wheel drive, like hunting vehicle that he drove down from his house in Manoa. There was always something
yeah,
with Coach Rolo.
the hunting knife when they played Nevada that one year, like it was always
Exactly.
something, right? And that was part of the package, and I think
Right.
it was genuine to Rolo, right?
Yeah.
And it's not a knock on him or anything like
No,
that.
definitely not.
And that's the thing. It's like you got to be yourself. Like it can't be a facade because
He
the
he
players will see right through that.
Totally. He jumped in the ring at a WWE wrestling event to give me my scholarship.
Yeah,
You know, the dude was wild. It got crazy. You know, Coach Timmy, in contrast, is super no frills. It's tough to pick him out of a crowd of other coaches sometimes because he's not wearing anything particularly highlighting.
hmm
Steven Tsai was standing next to me at practice yesterday, and he mentioned the same thing. He's like, I wish he wore something we could recognize him a little bit better. And you know, it's just one of those things. Guys are gonna coach the way that they want to coach, and who knows? I might completely be speculating with this particular. You know, maybe Timmy doesn't even want to do something like that. Who knows? But I thought it was kind of interesting to kind of contrast the different coaching
Yeah,
practice styles of the two guys because it really is different.
yeah, and that's the beauty of it, right? These guys all have their own personalities, and that's kind of what gets imparted on the team. And there's no, I think, better or worse way. If you know your stuff and you coach up the kids, that's kind of the main thing. So yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. Timmy, I think, is still growing into it. I think still kind of finding his voice and whatnot. Not that he doesn't have a pretty distinct plan, and I think has things going in a very positive direction, but it's just sort of natural, right? He hasn't had that long on the job when you really think about it. And I think is still growing into it, which you would expect of any coach. In month, what are we on, like 13 of
Yeah.
the job, if that. So it's fun. It's fun to kind of see this thing build from the floor level, if you will. All right, that'll do it for us. Quick little overtime 2-minute drill here. We got the Super Bowl on Sunday, Hunter. Last I checked, I think the Eagles was still favored by like a point and a half. Slightly surprising to me. We got our guy Marcus Kemp,
Yep.
former University of Hawaii receiver, played for the
85.
Chiefs, had a catch in the AFC Championship game. Amazing.
So crazy.
Who you got? Who you got on Sunday?
Chiefs. I'm going with the Chiefs,
There you
especially now
go.
that Mahomes has had two full weeks to rest that ankle. That was really my only concern for him. And was it the divisional where he could barely
Yep.
hand off in that outside zone run game? It was that was limiting to say the least. And I think he put his team in kind of jeopardy the longer he stayed out there. But I think he's ready to go this Sunday, and they're going to win a second Super Bowl under Coach Andy Reid.
Yeah, I kind of lean to the Chiefs as well. Yeah, they are 1.5-point underdogs. The total is 51.5. I think the under has been the play for the last like 20 years in the Super Bowl. It's hit at like a really high percentage for those that may be interested in something like that. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I've seen some that have sort of likened this one to the Bucks Chiefs Super Bowl, where the pass rush of Tampa Bay just kind of wreaked havoc on Pat Mahomes and was really kind of the key factor in that. I know Philadelphia's pass rush is good. I feel like the Chiefs are a little better equipped to handle that and Mahomes' magic. So the Eagles have looked really good. They looked really good last week. They looked exceptionally good against the Giants the week prior to that. But yeah, I like the Chiefs kind of close here, something in the mid-20s.
Oh, I like that. I think the deal breaker will be what receivers can step up for the Chiefs, because they're kind of diced right now with injury.
Yeah, they are shorthanded, if you will. And there's no Tyreek Hill, and maybe Travis Kelce has another one of his monster games. We shall see. That'd be cool, man. If Marcus Kemp can get one more, we'll at the very least be pulling for Marcus to do well in this game. Maybe make a huge impact as he usually does on special teams. All right, that'll do it for us. We will be back, more spring ball talk next week as well. Should be a lot of fun to kind of see this early spring session going on. A little chillier in the mornings as well out there in Manoa than it is a little bit later in the year. Again, a big mahalo to Spectrum Mobile and Hawaii USA Federal Credit Union. Big thanks to you, Hunter. Thanks to our guy Jonathan as well for splicing this up and putting it together. We will see everybody next week right back here on Hawaii Football Now. Aloha.
You've been listening to Hawaii Football Now with Jordan Helle and Hunter Hughes, all from ESPN Honolulu.